Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Welcome, guys. So today we're going to talk about people that always say this, Quran and Sunnah. We only follow the Quran and Sunnah. You see, I used to be Salafi. So if you don't know like my history, I used to be Salafi before, like when I was like younger and stuff. But recently, after like studying deeper Islamic history and how do you even understand the entire thing, okay? So I changed my view, like I'm not Salafi anymore, and I think it's a very simplistic view, at least the way mostly portrayed online and everywhere. It's a very simplistic view of Islam. What do I mean by that? I'll explain it in this video. So the first thing is like when you say we only follow the Quran and Sunnah, it's a very nice thing to say. Like, who doesn't want to do that? Like everyone wants to follow Quran and Sunnah. So to me, it's a kind of rhetorical device. And as I will explain further, you will see what I mean by that. It's not really substantial, because what do you mean by Quran and Sunnah? And that's what we're going to describe today. What is Quran? What is Kitab and Sunnah? Okay, what is that? Okay, so let's start. What is the Kitab? So the Kitab is the Quran, right? Kitab, Quran. I don't know any Muslim that doesn't believe in the Quran. Okay, at least see, and I'll show you more problems also. Like, who are you even talking to when you say Quran and Sunnah? As if it's not even, it can even be someone that is Sunni, it's not even Shia. You're talking to a Sunni, you're talking to someone that has even the same Aqidah as you. And you will still be using this rhetoric of, we only follow Quran and Sunnah. To them, to, like, who does that, right? Anyway, let's continue. So what is the Kitab? The Kitab is the Quran, okay, the Quran. Now, the problem is that, what is the Quran? The Quran is the word of God, okay? Instructions and history and everything. And it's written in Arabic. So the first problem is that to get to the Kitab, you need to understand Arabic, okay? Because it's written in Arabic. So you need to understand that language. Now, language is not something that can be read literally every single time. So when you have a language, since a particular thing, you have a text, you need to interpret the text. There's nobody, and this is also something that I need to point out. There's nobody that is not doing interpretation. Everyone is interpreting to some degree. Okay, so the first level of interpretation, there are two levels. The first level is just, do you even understand the language? Understanding the language and interpreting what the language means. Like I'm speaking English to you right now, as the words are entering your ears and you understand what they mean. If I say a particular word and you don't understand it, you go and check the dictionary. Okay, so that is the first level of interpretation. Taking the literal or what it means normally, generally, okay? That's the first level of interpretation. Now, you will see like if you continue to use this method, it's not going to work for very long. If you just take, what's it called? This is what most people will call the literal meaning of the text. If you always take the literal meaning of the text in the sense of just interpreting a language, you will see like you will run into a problem very soon. Okay, so the second level of interpretation is a kind of comprehensive understanding of the text, where you don't just interpret one part of the text, or you don't just use the Arabic language only. You need to understand the message of even Islam in the first place. So this one can be theologically motivated, meaning Aqidah is involved in this one. Your Aqidah is going to determine how you interpret some text. If you have a particular Aqidah or set of creed or inclinations, the way you interpret it, no matter, you will still speak the same Arabic, but you interpret it differently, because that's what you really believe. Okay, so the second one can be theologically motivated, but also you are doing more than just interpreting it with Arabic. Okay, so this example, let me see if I can give you one example of this type, is where, for example, Allah says, wherever you turn your face, Allah is there. Okay, let me see if I can remember this verse. That anywhere you turn your face, you will see the face of Allah. If you take the literal meaning of this, you'll be like, okay, is Allah's face everywhere? That's the next question. We'll be like, that's absurd, right? Your theology is going to determine that. What if someone believes in the omnipresence of God? That is going to be like, yeah, that's what this verse is saying. We take it literal here. So the part of the Kitab is, when do we take things literally, and when do we not take things literally? Now, your Aqidah difference is going to determine how diverse your understanding will be. So let's say you have a Shia and a Sunni that have two different Aqidah, for example. The way they interpret verses will be much more different than when you have Sunnis. Now, the Sunnis too, they will still differ on some parts and agree on some parts. Now, to now think like, who is going to decide when to interpret things literally or when to not interpret things literally? Okay, who's going to decide that? I think this is the problem, that if you have a very simplistic understanding, you will want your own interpretation. You want to be the one to decide when it should be literal and when it should not be literal. Okay, you want your own view to be like that. You will not want to leave it as a theory, like this is my own theory. You want to make it objective. And this is the first problem. You will find people with the same akida, Sunnis, they believe in the same stuff. And then they will start telling each other, this is what the Quran says, as if you don't know that some other parts you also interpret. So there's nobody that is reading everything literally in every situation. You will interpret sometimes. And that's why you even have like Ibn Hazm, his own school of thought, what do they call them? Zahiriyya. Okay, you have the people that want to take things literally. And even them, when they say it's literal, they don't really mean it's literal in that sense. Because they interpret, they just think they are not interpreting. They end up interpreting, because you get to some parts, you cannot interpret literally. So that's the part of the kitab. So the next time you tell someone they are not following the kitab, you need to know who are you even talking to in the first place. If it's someone that is a Sunni, why would you even tell him that? It's just that you don't want to recognize that you have difference of opinion and their own opinion is also valid. Okay? Who are you to tell people when to interpret things literally or not? Okay? You also have your own presuppositions, which can be maybe your akida or something that is making you want to not interpret in that particular instance. And people that are also already involved in this, they will know what I'm saying. Okay? You see this between the Asharis and Atharis when they talk about akida. Anyway, moving on. We talk about the kitab, okay, the Sunnah. So you see the kitab, there will be a dichotomy of when should we interpret it literally or when should we interpret it non-literally. That dichotomy alone will not make you, it will not be, so if you want to interpret it metaphorically or you want to not take it literally in some parts, me I can say no, we have to take it literally there, and you will be like no, we cannot take it literally here, right? So you see like that problem is already there. So who's using the kitab? If you're not interpreting literally there, I can say you're not following the kitab, right? You will not want to agree to this, right? So that is the part, that's the first part. The second part is the Sunnah. Okay, and this one is even easier to show. So we will say this guy is not following the Sunnah. What is the Sunnah? You need to define these terms, and you need to, if you want to pin it down, you will see like, what is the Sunnah? The Sunnah is the prophetic tradition. Where do we get the information of this from? If you're someone that is deep, you have studied deeper, you will see like it comes from different ways. It can be tradition that has been passed on in mass. That's mutawatir, a tradition. It doesn't even need to be said, stated. It just needs to be something that everyone is doing so unanimously that you cannot be like, is this even, we don't need hadith for that. Okay? So many people think everything has to be written down. No, some things were not written down in the beginning. And people didn't need to write them down because it was so practiced that you don't need to write them down. So that's mutawatir tradition. Now you have mutawatir narrations. Those ones have more value, what's it called? Their validity is much more trusted, the mutawatir. Okay? And then you have things that are not mutawatir and they are sahih. Okay? They are sahih. Now, how do you grade which hadith is sahih or not? This is something that is rooted in the Islamic studies. If you are studying hadith, you will know like it's not just if something is sahih, it doesn't mean other people will grade it as sahih. It doesn't mean it's even acceptable to be used in the fiqh. Okay, so you have Imam Malik, for example, saying that if you bring me ahad hadith, one hadith that is not mutawatir, and is contradicting a practice of the people of Medina, they have a tradition, it's contradicting that, I will not accept it. Do you see? So that's the principle that is coming in to filter out what hadith are we going to use or not. So in that place where Imam Malik is not taking that hadith, are you going to tell him he's not following the Sunnah? Or does he have a valid principle of difference? Okay, so this is one part. So the Sunnah, when you see someone is not following the Sunnah, what Sunnah? Does he even accept it as Sunnah? See, I know it can be so subjective, but the bigger problem to me is simplistic understanding. When you have a simplistic understanding and you just run away classing everybody as heretics, or as they are rejecting something very clear in Islam, where they are not. And you will see, like, the one that annoys me the most, this is it. See, if you make this rhetoric against the Christians or against even the Shia, I can still understand. But when you come to the Sunnis and people that even share the same Aqidah with you sometimes, and you still criticize those ones, who are you? You want to be the criteria for everybody to follow. It doesn't work like that. You are neglecting historical Islam. You are neglecting what is behind the curtains, and the people that are educated know this. So why would you be spewing out that kind of rhetoric of we only follow the Qur'an and Sunnah, as if the other people you are talking to don't? Okay, because like I've explained the type of the kitab. Now the Sunnah part, you see, what is the Sunnah that they are rejecting? Do they agree that is the Sunnah? Do they have hadith critics that have classed those hadiths as not authentic? Do you have other hadiths that they accept, you reject? Once you see like these things are there, for example, there's a particular hadith saying something. There's one hadith that says, Ya ibadallah gisuni, or if you are lost in the forest or something, you can say, Ya ibadallah gisuni. This thing is contradictory to mainly the Salafi understanding. But the Sufis, some of them will be like, that hadith change is not that bad. It doesn't have to be 100%, it's not that bad. And the meaning, we can understand it, it's okay also. But because it's contradictory to your Aqidah, you'll be theologically inclined to want to deny it. You'll be theologically inclined to want to be like, let's check the chain. If you find any problem with the chain, you'll be like, do we need this hadith? It's fishy, right? Why? You have a presupposition. If you don't recognize that presupposition, this is where the problem comes. And then you think everyone is rejecting the Sunnah or they are not rejecting the Sunnah, basically. So I've shown you that when you say Kitab and Sunnah, it's a very simplistic way of looking at Islam. And the more you go deeper, you will realize that at one point you are rejecting some hadiths that other people are accepting. And at one point, you are in the Quran, you are taking things literally that other people don't. And you are not, at some other points, you are not taking it literally, and them they do. So you will see, like, to me, this is a solution. First of all, recognize if you are someone that doesn't understand this, go and study. You need to study. And don't attack other Muslims, especially those that are closer to you, with this kind of rhetoric. Don't do that, okay? Because eventually, you could be wrong, and fatally wrong. And those other guys think you're obviously wrong. So why should you? I'm not saying you cannot take your position. Of course you can, but understand that your position is just one of many, or one of the few. Why should you not criticize everybody else? Okay, that's the first one. To me, the solution to this is that, like I've stated in other videos, recognize that you're also attempting to understand the entire tradition that we have. You are just one of us. You are not unique. Okay, you cannot come and make value judgments on everyone that is trying. You cannot do that. And this is the problem that has been passed on historically, that people were very polemical in the past. Some scholars were very, very polemical and sectarian. And this kind of thing is what has passed on to the next generation, and people continue to do this without even thinking about it. Do we really need this kind of rhetoric in our communities? Okay, so anyway, I hope after this video you go and study yourself. See, lastly, there was one thing I studied and made me realize, like, I never knew fiqh was like that. When I understood that the 4 schools, there were many schools. There's nowhere. What is the delil for saying there have to be 4 schools? No, there's nothing like that. You can have as many schools as you want. It's the schools that people accepted. Those are the ones that survived. So basically, it means that the schools, they don't have to be 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. It can be as many as possible. And you just have to follow which one seems right to you at the end of the day. Okay? And those 4 schools, I realized that they have principles. That's the biggest thing I discovered. I never knew Imam Malik had principles. I just thought they were just, I don't know. I had a very simplistic view. That's how I put it. But when I realized that they were just using some principles, and those principles, they differ from each other. And once you understand the principle, you'll be like, I like this. This principle makes more sense to me than this other principle. Then you'll be able to judge which one you accept at the end of the day. Okay? You see, like, they are just schools with principles, and the people that follow them after, they just systematize or institutionalize these principles, and then they use it to do jurisprudence, fiqh. And when I realized that, and I understood that other schools didn't survive, but they had their own principles, which would mean that any decision you are making, another school can use a different lens and come to a different conclusion. That's all I needed to see. Once I saw that, I began to see these principles in every situation, in every study, that everyone is using some kind of presupposition, principles that not necessarily they are clear. You can accept them because they make sense, but it doesn't mean that is not a presupposition. So I hope after this video you'll begin to understand, and next time you say Qur'an and Sunnah to somebody that is a Sunni, it sounds like weird, especially if they're Sunni. And see, some of them, they are even in your own Akida. To me, there shouldn't be any Qur'an and Sunnah between Ashari and Athari. That's my own opinion. No one should use that rhetoric. You should just present your case and make your argument. Don't make that rhetoric of, we are only following the Qur'an and Sunnah, because they will show you where you are not following things literally and where you are interpreting metaphorically. They will show you. So anyway, that's all I have for you in this video. Let me see what you think about this. Write your comments. Let me see your feedback, and like this video. See you guys later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.